In my last video, we talked about why women can't pick good men and discussed the case of emotionally unavailable men. Today, I want to dive a little bit more into emotionally unavailable partners. Signs of emotional unavailability are: you feel like you must always be perfect to keep them interested. It's you who does all the calling, texting, and planning. They don't communicate consistently. They struggle with being affectionate. They become awkward when you get physically close. They change the subject to light or superficial topics when you start going deeper or discussing relationship dynamics, aka the "what are we" conversation. They become uncomfortable when you express your affection and care for them. They put off labeling your relationship as a relationship or initiating the next step, the good old situationship. They drop a relationship completely at the first sign of emotional intimacy. Men and women can probably relate to some of these experiences. I don't know about y'all, but I definitely can. So I was reflecting one day and I said, "Self, you talk about the law of attraction, specifically that like attracts like. So if you are attracting and entertaining people who are emotionally unavailable, doesn't that mean that a little part of you might be emotionally unavailable too?" My edges. My name is Tynesha and I am recovering from being emotionally unavailable. Hi, Tynesha. I am a runner. I have a habit of running when things get a little bit too close for comfort and I'm not sure about someone. So that is something that I am actively working on. I was having a conversation with one of my friends one day and I was like, I feel like when I'm meeting someone, it goes into these two extremes. They're either moving too slow, which would be on the side of emotional unavailability, or they're going too fast and it makes me feel uncomfortable and like things are forced. But then I thought about it and I'm like, what are the chances that every other person on this planet doesn't know how to go the correct pace? There is a higher chance that there's something going on with me and the pace that I like to go when I'm dating versus something being wrong with the pace of every person who's interested in me. Maybe the people who I feel are going too fast are actually the people who are emotionally available. So what causes us to become emotionally unavailable? This stuff gets a bit deep, so I'm not gonna lay out everything on y'all today, but I'm gonna drop a few gems. You don't think you deserve reciprocal love. It's common for people with negative self-image and low self-worth to have problems with receiving unconditional love. Perhaps you were brought up by distant parents whose behavior taught you that love is conditional. You learned that you must do your very best to be worthy of it. In other words, you learn to earn love, not receive it. And unless you earn it, the love isn't real. Unless you struggle, your self-worth isn't valid. If you are an emotionally secure person seeking an emotionally secure individual, you will not entertain emotionally unavailable people, period. I think a lot of this boils down to having a scarcity mindset. You meet someone, you realize that they might not be consistent and they're struggling with their emotions, but you feel like this is the best that you'll get, so you just take whatever you can. And this typically happens when we have low confidence and low self-esteem. I've also been on the receiving end of this, where I've dated men who struggle with understanding why I love them so freely. The idea of love coming easy was so foreign to them because they were raised on survival instead of love. More on that another day. Becoming emotionally unavailable is also heavily tied into abandonment issues. The thing that's interesting about abandonment issues is that the way we navigate through them is often like a vicious cycle. A common thing with people who have abandonment issues is to subconsciously seek out or connect with people who are emotionally unavailable. You're never really going to get that full affection that you want or need from someone, and it's probably never going to lead to a committed relationship. But the reason why we seek out emotionally unavailable people when we have abandonment issues is because subconsciously we know that those people will never get close to us. This was something that I knew about myself already, but there were some other causes of emotional unavailability that I found interesting. You feel the urge to save them. You may be more likely to choose the broken and distant person who you believe needs rescuing, the one who will come out of their shell eventually and learn to love, the one who doesn't seem to be impacted by affection and attention, but who you feel is just waiting for you to come along and change their life. If they build those walls, something terrible might have happened to them in their life. They face only neglect and unworthy treatment. I'm the one to make them happy at last. If you feel like you have to save others because you believe that no one else can, and you feel like your love will cure a person, you might have a savior complex. A lot of us fall in love with the idea of being needed. You get this sense of security from knowing that someone is dependent on you. If someone is dependent on you, they're always going to be getting something from you. And when people are getting something from you, they're more likely to stick around. Obviously, reciprocity is the goal in any relationship, so this is very detrimental to your well-being if you're constantly giving, and you're not getting anything in return. If a person is emotionally unavailable, they need to want those changes for themselves. A person can only meet you as deeply as they've met themselves. And I'll tell you one thing, baby, it is a never-ending uphill battle. Are y'all ready for the next one? You try to resolve the wounds of your childhood. If you find yourself constantly choosing emotionally unavailable people, you choose a familiar dynamic. Here's how a childhood-adulthood loop works. Perhaps one or both of your parents were neglecting or physically and emotionally distant from you or one another. So you may strive to heal your childhood wounds by chasing a distant partner. You try to rewrite the past and meet your childhood needs by repeating the same dynamic and hoping it'll work out this time. This defensive strategy is called repetition compulsion. And besides child-parent relationships, it also can be about your past unsuccessful relationships with romantic partners. The crazy thing about all of this is that it's often done subconsciously. You don't even realize that you're doing it. As they say, history repeats itself. And we're repeating history because deep down inside, we want it to be different this time around. This is often the case when people are meeting the same person, but in different bodies. So let's say you dated someone who had daddy issues and it caused them to do you filthy. They did not care about your emotions. They took your heart and stomped on it. Now you move on to another person who also has daddy issues. If you can make this situation work, that proves that in the previous situation, there was nothing going on with you. It was absolutely them. And you can compensate for all of that pain that you felt by making it work with someone who has a similar profile as they did. Well, but this last one here, y'all, okay? Pow, pow, pow. Shot to the heart. The tricky game of your psychological projections. They say love is blindness. It's natural for some projections to occur when you fall in love. Projection is a process of unconsciously attributing your thoughts, feelings, desires, or qualities to another person or object. The less you know the person you like, the closer they are to your ideal. But this ideal is highly likely to exist only in your mind. Pay attention now. Let's say you become attracted to someone because you have dope chemistry. You might have good conversation, you might have similar beliefs, but so far this is all you know about them. You make attempts to get closer and communicate more, and everything seems to be perfect and exciting. But once you get into emotionally or physically intimate territory, you start noticing their detachment. You get confused, not knowing what has happened. And since emotionally unavailable people experience difficulties with direct communication, they are unlikely to say what the matter is openly. When you do not have enough information, your mind seeks to complete the picture based on the details it already has. So in other words, you meet someone, there's chemistry there, you start to like them, but you don't know a whole lot about them. This person is emotionally unavailable, so when you guys start to reach a certain level of intimacy, you'll notice that they instantly draw their attention back. And you're confused like, hold up, what's going on? I thought we had a vibe. What's going on with this person? Because your brain doesn't have information, no puzzle pieces to put together, you start creating your own narrative of why that person is behaving the way that they do. Your ideas about this person are rooted in your previous experiences, guesses, and fantasies. Fantasies, not reality. Since the first impression of a person is very positive, so are the projections. Eventually, you can, for years, explain the coldness of a partner with special qualities that are attractive to you, which they actually don't possess. This is until you face reality. They can't and don't want to build intimacy and stay in emotionally involved relationships simply because they're the way that they are. This is literally the psychology behind falling for potential. I'll just speak for myself on this. Let me know if you can relate in the comments. I felt like I was deeply in love a couple of times in my life, and there were a lot of things that these individuals did that wasn't right, but I would justify all of the bad stuff for all of the good, fluffy things that I created about them in my mind. It wasn't even really who they were as a person. A lot of times when we reflect back on our relationships and think about the people who we were deeply in love with, we realize that we didn't even like them for real. We liked the idea of them, the amazing, loyal, perfect person that they could have been. As you can see, all of this is rooted in self. The partners we attract, the partners we entertain, and how we perceive these partners, it's all rooted in ourselves. Keeping all of this in mind, I am transitioning to a viewpoint of accepting people for who they are and not who I want them to be. We hurt our own feelings because we romanticize people once we begin to like them, which leads to having unrealistic expectations. A person can be holding up flags like, hey, this is me, this is the real me. And we choose to put on blinders and recreate them into the mold that we want them to be. Then we get mad when they show us who they really are. You lied to me, you played me, you deceived me. No, baby, you played yourself. These are the conversations that I've been having with myself lately, and it really requires you to be real with yourself. Sometimes the truth sucks to hear, but it's needed so that you can make better decisions in the future. And honestly, a lot of folks dating right now are not ready to be dating. A lot of us fear being alone or feel like we always need to have a connection with someone, sexually or emotionally, because we don't know who we are unless our identity is tied to a title. Well, and on that note, I'm out.